Hello, my name's Charlotte Goodwin, and today I'm going to read you Chapter 7 of my debut novel, The General's Son. In this chapter, we are in Vaughnston, which is in Vaughan on Fantasia, codenamed planet M69245. The Earth year is 2040, so we've jumped forward a few more years again from the last chapter. Okay, so I will begin. Eliza sat at her dressing table, her chin leaning on her hands, elbows propped on the mahogany, gazing out of the window. She'd open it to let in the breeze, what little of it there was. It was warm for the time of year, and still. Her room was high in the palace, with lots of windows. It tended to get hot late in the day if the shutters were left open, and the servants hadn't bothered to shut them. It was early in the year. She supposed it just hadn't occurred to them. It would be dinner time in a few hours. Another round of getting dressed up and going to sit with her parents and siblings, and a load of boring nobles, probably. Her maid would be along soon to start preening her. She was bored of being preened, like a porcelain doll, and trying to feign interest in the arrogant lords. She was bored of the cocksure young men who were constantly trying to get into her good graces, normally after her older sister had rejected them. She gazed past the soldiers who strolled along the top of the palace wall and out across the white rendered buildings of Vaughnston with their red terracotta roofs, and she found herself staring at the birds that circled above the city. Somewhere below, steel clashed with steel. Soldiers training, she presumed. She thought about sword fighting, and the last time she'd done it. She must have been 11 or 12, but she hadn't kept at it. Her father was happy for her to continue, but the other noble girls teased her for it. They'd called her a tomboy. They'd said it was for the men to learn such skills. She'd stopped. She thought about hunting, about riding out into the mountains with her brother and the sons of the nobles, about her skill with a bow, and how she'd been able to hit a bird in flight at 300 paces without magic, about the thrill of the chase when she'd joined the royal hunt and galloped across the fields, through the woodlands, and over streams in pursuit of a boar. She didn't do that any more either. She'd been about 13 the last time she'd done that, before she feigned interest in fashion, gossip, and the latest hairstyles in a vain attempt to fit in with the daughters of the other nobles. Now she was 18. The other girls were mostly betrothed. Some were married already. They talked of nothing but their weddings and their future castles or manor houses, how many children they'd have, or how they planned to run their households. Tedium. Eliza was lucky, in some ways. Her parents might be the Queen and the Prince Consort of Vaughan, and her marriage to the right person might have strategic benefits to the country. But despite pressure from their advisers and other nobles, her parents had been clear. Eliza could marry who and when she liked, and she had no plans to get married any time soon. Someone knocked on the door. "Come in," Eliza called, turning lazily to see who it was. The door creaked open. She was greeted by the smiling face of Alora, her cousin. Alora was the daughter of her mother's sister. They had grown up together, and she was closer to her than she was to her own sister, Helenia. Unlike Eliza, Alora had shown little interest in swords or hunting. Indeed, Alora's fascination with all things girly was half the reason Eliza stopped doing that stuff. Recently, Alora seemed to have grown up and tired of the palace gossip and dreary conversations they endured every day. She had no desire to start sword fighting, but she was certainly after excitement. Eliza returned her cousin's smile. As always, she looked immaculate. Her long, simple day dress was trimmed with lace and was tailored beautifully to her womanly figure. Her black hair had been tamed into sleek curls and sat elegantly upon her head. Her naturally bronze complexion was set off beautifully by the hues of turquoise in her gown. Eliza shook her head slightly. Alora was certainly her mother's daughter. Alora looked disapprovingly at her cousin. "You're wearing breeches again, Eliza," Alora said. Eliza glanced down at her attire as if she didn't know what she was wearing. She looked at the cotton trousers and her loose linen shirt, turned to her cousin and shrugged. So? Those are men's clothes. So? What if someone sees you? Like you? You surely aren't going out anywhere like that, are you? Eliza sighed. No, I was saying if they still fit. Doesn't seem like I've grown an awful lot since my early teens. If I wanted to go hunting again. Alora rolled her eyes. Really? You want to go hunting? Why not? It's got to be more fun than hanging round here. Some of the lesser noble women do it, and even Mother, on occasion. Yes, and they all do it wearing dresses, riding dresses. So impractical. Alora smiled. You'll never be a lady, will you? Not in the heart. She strolled over to Eliza's bed and took a seat on the mattress. Eliza shuffled her chair round to face her. Nope. I tried. I really did. It's not for me, I'm afraid. Do you ever plan to marry? Probably. Eventually. Do you think you'll find a man who will be happy for you to wear breeches? In public? Alora's face was serious. Eliza couldn't help but laugh at the genuine concern in her voice. Oh, Alora, she chuckled. I have no idea. I don't think a man like father, or even your father, will care one way or the other. She paused, and her humour faded. But they aren't Fantasian, are they? There's no one else like them in this place. My father might tolerate it, but my mother would never permit it. Your mother is Fantasian. So is yours. Not really. She mostly grew up on Earth, remember? She has some very different ideas to your mother about what a young lady should be like. Yes, and look how it's made you turn out. Laura looked her cousin up and down again, her face still disapproving. Eliza couldn't help but laugh again. Are you bored, Laura? Eliza asked, after her attack of the giggles abated. Laura looked puzzled. Right now? Your company isn't that tedious, she said, with a half smile. No, I don't mean right now. I mean in general. I mean with life. You're lucky, like me. No one is pushing you to get married. I'm sure Mother would if Father let her. She's constantly trying to suggest suitors, Laura interjected. Yes, I know your mother wants you to get married, but it's normally fathers who insist on it. They are the ones who do the bargaining and find the match to suit their business interests or build family allegiances. Your father isn't about to do that, though, is he? No. Exactly. Whatever your mother might want you to do, you're not about to be made to do anything, are you? I guess not. That gives us options. And options are difficult. If we knew our destiny was to marry whoever our parents told us to and make the best of it, that's what I'd do. I'd make the best of it. But it's not the case, is it? I'm allowed to do what I want, within reason. And it's hard. Are you saying you want to be made to marry? Laura asked, perplexed. No, of course not. I'm just saying, because I can do what I want, it's too hard to decide. I find myself paralysed with indecision. And bored. Oh, I understand. I'm bored too, I guess, she conceded. I used to always think I wanted to be a healer, like my mother. She spends her days helping the poor, and I go and help her, and it does feel nice to help people. But it's not terribly exciting, is it? Exactly. Let's consider that you were the daughter of a healer, just a healer, and not the niece of the Queen. You'd have grown up knowing that you too would be a healer. You'd have known it would be your career since you were a girl, as long as your father didn't want to marry you off. Either way, your options would have been fixed from an early age, and you'd know what to expect in life. I suppose. Laura bit her lip and looked around the room in thought. You're a bad influence, Eliza, she said at last. Me? Why? Because you say things that make me think. I'm not sure I realised I was bored until you pointed it out. But you're right, I am. I don't want to be a healer. It's what my mother wants. I'd always been more interested in other kinds of magic, telekinesis or even portal magic. I could be a palace sorcerer if I trained more in those kinds of things. I could ask Father. Aha! You see what I mean? Options make you miserable and bored. I'm not sure I'm miserable. Give it time, Eliza grinned. Alora returned the gesture and shook her head in mock despair. Our futures will take longer to work out than we have time for before dinner. How about we think of something to brighten up our evening? Play some kind of trick on Lord Banavir's son over dinner. He's lecherous. He needs teaching a lesson, Alora suggested. Tempting. Certainly an option. Eliza twisted back towards a window and rested her chin on her hand in thought. How about something more dramatic? What have you got in mind? Eliza was sure she could detect a hint of excitement in her cousin's voice. She turned back to face her with a mischievous grin. Have you ever been to a pub? A pub? Yes, a public house. A place serving beer and wine. Ordinary folk hang out there. I know what a pub is, Alora snapped. Why the heck would you want to go there? We spend our lives surrounded by nobles. Eliza slumped in a chair. The closest thing that we get to ordinary folk are our servants, who are so institutionalized they don't count. And of course, anyone we meet when we're on duty. For you when you're healing, for me when I'm doing visits. But that doesn't count. They know who we are, and they are so deferential and courteous. It's not the same as really meeting them. As soon as you step foot in a pub, they will see your clothes and know you are noble. They won't treat you as somebody who is ordinary. Eliza tutted. We wouldn't go in our normal clothes. I'll get my maid to bring us some ordinary clothes and we can sneak out. We can both do cloaking magic. No one will have a clue. Alora sat in silence, apparently considering the idea. Eliza knew every fibre in her well-brought-up being would be telling her it was a terrible idea. She also knew her cousin had a mischievous side. She got it from her father, and she certainly knew what he would have done in her position. Fine, let's do it, Alora said at last. Eliza smiled at her naughtily. Okay, so that's the end of my chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll tune in next week for my next chapter, and I really hope you enjoyed listening to me today. Thanks for listening. Bye.